Welcome, Steve Hafner, co-founder and CEO of KAYAK. It's a pleasure to meet you, at least virtually, and to have you with us today at what we'll call the Focus Wire Home Studios. Love the view, and I know you're in Florida today. I'm in Florida, so we'll try to beat the heat and enjoy the day because we're speaking on the occasion of KAYAK marking 20 years of business. And thinking about how much travel has changed over those 2 decades makes it seem a lot longer to me. And KAYAK's responsible for a lot of that change. As you like to say, innovation is in KAYAK's DNA. So tell us, with all that's different about travel today, what stands out to you the most, both for good and for bad?
Sure, Derek, and it's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for taking the time. Yeah, and you're right, by the way. I can feel the 20 years. 20 years is a long time. But yeah, KAYAK was founded to be innovative, to be the upstart in the category, and it's been a really fun ride, and the innovation isn't over yet. So we've seen like the migration from offline bookings to online websites, and then from online websites to mobile apps, and then to MWeb, and now we've got this new technology called AI. And I think we're one of the first sites to jump on that, and I think it's going to be incredible transformative technology for the category. So look, we've debuted Ask KAYAK and PriceCheck, which is pretty cool stuff. But I think there's even more cool stuff coming in terms of speaking to intelligent agents to do everything you want to do, and hopefully being able to get to the airport with facial recognition, et cetera, not having to scrounge for paper or boarding passes, even if it's on your cell phone. So there's a lot more stuff to come.
That's good to hear. Exciting. And before we get to that, I wanted to back up a second because I don't think it's a stretch to say that you were fated to be in travel. I mean, you were born in Peru and lived in more countries as a child than I think most Americans see in a lifetime. And I've heard you talk about how the world would be a better place if more people could live in different countries. And I wondered if you could elaborate on that. It's a great philosophy.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, at the time I was growing up, I didn't appreciate that moving around a lot was actually gonna shape my career and my worldview, but it did. And now I think a lot more folks would benefit from seeing the world because there's a lot of different ways to maybe skin a cat. Kate's gonna not like that expression, but there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat and to problem solve in the world. And no country and no part of any country's got a great handle on it or a monopoly on good ideas. So when you move around a lot, it makes you a better person and it makes you a better world citizen. And I think it makes you more empathetic and more open to other ways of doing things. So, ending up in travel for me was great because not only did I like to use the product a lot, so I had solutions for some of the friction points I saw, but also it helps me feel good about helping people get around to other places and expand their worldviews.
So we were speaking about the innovation being in KAYAK's DNA, and I know you take pride in KAYAK quickly adapting to technology. So I wondered what's the source for that ethos?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think everyone at KAYAK, we've got, call it 970 people here at the company now. Fundamentally, we're all culturally the same. We're all very curious people. We're all dissatisfied with the status quo, and we're all eager to take a look at new technologies and new developments and say, how can we configure them to make KAYAK services better? And that culture, a lot of people say that's a startup culture. I'm not so sure because we're not a startup anymore. I think some companies have that esprit de corps and those kind of insights and curious people, and others don't. And we've been blessed at KAYAK to have them. And as people leave KAYAK, and it's been 20 years, I've seen a lot of KAYAK alumni put forth out into the world. The fresh eyes we get to focus on the same old problems often come up with new solutions, and that's been very rewarding to see too.
Right. Well, in regards to some of those innovations, in March, KAYAK unveiled an image recognition tool that can offer price comparisons from a screenshot of a flight itinerary from any site. And it's a cool tool, but I'm wondering, so how are consumers responding to that?
They're using it. I mean, it's early days, right? But it used to be that to use a travel site, you'd have to go to the travel site, interact with the search form, submit a query, and then get the results back. Now with AI, you can actually use your phone, which a lot of people, they use their phone more than anything else. And if you can just take a snapshot of a travel site results, or even write down an itinerary on a piece of paper and take a picture of that, send it to Kayak, and we'll give you a result set. So you don't actually have to go to Kayak at all anymore. And not only that, but you can set up fare alerts right from the response we get. So I think more and more what cell phones are enabling and AI is enabling is people being able to do stuff asynchronously, meaning you don't have to be, it used to be you'd have to go to a travel agency and see a person to make a booking. Then we moved it offline. Then you had to go to the website. Now we can actually use photographs. It's awesome, you know? And I think the next step is using voice. You know, people have been playing around with voice, talking to Alexa, talking to Siri, but you know, getting really crappy results. But now with AI, I think that feedback loop is going to make it so much better. So you can actually just talk and get a result set back.
I think your enthusiasm in talking about these innovations kind of also answers the question I asked earlier about where does that ethos come from. It's clear in your enthusiasm. So another thing I think you'll be enthusiastic about, you know, Kayak for Business. You talked about that a little bit with us at the Focusrite conference in November. And that's at the time you shared that TripAdvisor was among one of your new clients. And so what's the latest on Kayak for Business?
Yeah, well, thanks, Derek. And I did enjoy that interview too, by the way. Look, we've been at the consumer side of Kayak for 20 years. We've been at the business side now for only 3 years. And the same insights, innovation we brought to the consumer side, we're bringing to the business side. And we're doing that in partnership with two other great companies. One is BlockSky, who is a technology vendor and partner of ours. And the other is PwC, which is PricewaterhouseCoopers, you know, a big enterprise client, and also someone who gives a lot of advice to some of the world's best corporations. And what we've designed there is a product that, you know, goes direct to the airlines and to certain OTAs for supply, for fare improvements, doesn't require credit cards or credit card fees, doesn't require expense reports for the users of that, and is agnostic in terms of who touches the ticket and does the customer service. You know, no more, hey, did you buy it from us? Oh, no, you bought it from Expedia? Well, sorry, American Airlines can't help you. Now American Airlines can help you, Expedia can help you, or any other partner can help you as you make changes to your itinerary. Ideally, you don't have to talk to anybody though, because you know we have very robust self-help tools, but it's fundamentally bringing all the innovation from the consumer side, plus blockchain and some other cool technologies to the enterprise side, and it's working. So yeah, TripAdvisor is a client, which is great to see because you know we compete in the consumer side of the business. But PwC was a client, and Diageo, another big company, is a client of ours too, as well as about 30,000 other smaller corporations. So it's been a fun ride so far. We're only 3 years in, so we got a ways to go.
Well, so you mentioned AI earlier, and I was curious, how would you characterize Kayak's use of generative AI for your internal operations today versus like about a year ago? And what's your prediction for the future regarding generative AI in travel?
I think it's going to be a game changer. So there's the consumer side, which we talked a little bit about earlier, but then there's also just operational side. I mean, I don't know what you guys use at FocusWire, but I remember when Google Suite came out, right? And you know, you had a lot of people who were using Microsoft and PowerPoint and others, and then you had to do version control and that stuff. When you use Google Suites and you could collaborate and insert comments in real time on a document, it's like game changer. It made everybody so much more productive, right? And I think AI is going to do the same thing in terms of eliminate the mundane work that so many of us do. You know, our marketing team, for example, using GenAI to write press releases, to write copy, to generate images and videos. Our SEO team is doing the same. When we're doing content snippets for hotels, we can use AI to write relevant summaries for that. Our developers are using AI in terms of GitHub's Copilot to make their code a little less buggy and a little easier for people to track. So I think all that work is going to make the quality of the output from the folks that we have at Kayak much, much better. I don't think it's going to replace jobs, at least at Kayak, because we don't have a big customer service team. If you are on the customer service team, I think you know, your job, you better get good at using AI. because you want to be more efficient so you don't get replaced. But for us, I just think it's going to make our employees eliminate the mundane work and do, really great stuff on the creative side.
Oh, that sounds exciting. So, all right. So, you know, between Google and loyalty programs and social media, it's been tough for metasearch sites to hold on to their former share of advertising revenue. So I wanted to ask you what you see as the future for metasearch, and what comes next.
Yeah, it's funny. I get this question a lot, like meta search has peaked or something like that. It hasn't at all. I mean, consumers have this inherent desire to cross shop and travel. Why? Because prices are different based on where you go and selection's different. So you're not going to trust American Airlines to show you the lowest Delta fare. You're not going to trust Booking.com to show you all the non hotel accommodations that are out there. You want to cross shop, right? And meta search sites enable you to do that very easily. Category is very healthy. One player, Google, is attracting the lion's share of the growth. And that's because they have a really good product and they're also higher up the food chain. People have been trained over time to start their search on Google for lots of different categories, travel being one of them. But that doesn't mean Kayak is not healthy. We actually have never intended to be the biggest site or meta site. We've always wanted to be the best, and we still are the best. So, the thing that's keeping Google back is they have this this constraint, which is they have to be fast, right? When you search on Google, you want the results like that. Well, that means they can't be comprehensive and they can't be accurate because they have to cache their inventory. But if you're buying a considered purchase like travel, you want comprehensiveness and you want accuracy in terms of prices. So we like to say you snack on Google for travel prices and you book via Kayak because you get better results. And I think that's true. So we have a very, very nice business. Google may have a nicer one, but I'm very happy with what we got.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So, as happy as you are, if you were launching a startup today, if you had to launch it, or if you were advising someone on starting, a new startup today, what would it be for? I mean, what's most ripe for disruption in travel these days?
Oh, gosh, I mean, there's so many places of friction still in the travel ecosystem. Travel sites sucked a long time ago when we started Kayak, particularly on selection and pricing. They're less so now, but they're still pretty bad. I still think there's room for new airlines, for new hotel chains, to use new technology, new means of customer acquisition. I'd start there. I think the two most revolutionary companies in the last 15 years have been Airbnb and Uber in the travel space, honestly. And I don't think the world needs another OTA. So, Hopper, hats off to them for what they've achieved. Getting to profitability is going to be a tougher slog. I think they're experiencing that. Same is true for Sonder and Selena and Vacasa and so many others, right? It's just a perfect alchemy to be successful. You have to have a great idea. You have to have a great team. You have to be very well financed, and you have to be lucky. And if you don't have all four of those things, it's going to be difficult. And I still think Kayak, we have all four of those things. So I'm going to stick with Kayak versus starting up another company and going after something else. But hats off to those entrepreneurs who are brave enough to go do so.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the entrepreneurs are glad not to have to compete against you on something new, probably. So, all right. So I mentioned the Focusrite conference interview earlier, and of course, that's where we first heard, or at least those in the audience first heard about the KAYAK Killer. And I was in the audience that day when your Kayak co-founder, Paul English, made that joke on stage. And he was talking up, of course, his latest venture, Deets. So I've got to ask you, what's your review of the Deets beta? And because, I am going to need a headline for this piece. So,
I love Paul English, and he's got a knack for generating headlines. I'm hopeful that his Deets enterprise is a success. I don't think it's any threat of being a kayak killer. If Google couldn't kill us, Paul English's Deets isn't going to either.
Fair enough. Fair enough. When we started the conversation, we were talking about your 20 years at Kayak, and it seems appropriate to sort of end on that note. And so I wanted to ask first, if you have any regrets. I mean, we all do. So I won't ask you if you have regrets, but what if you could change something, what would it be?
Gosh, we had so many opportunities along the way to expand more aggressively than we did. We had the opportunity to buy Skyscanner, to go into China via Chunar, to take an equity stake in Uber. And there's so many places where we said, no, that's too risky. We're not a venture capitalist. We don't know anything about China. We don't know much about Skyscanner. Let's just launch our own product there. And so I wish we had gambled a little bit more. I also wish that Google hadn't outbid us for ITA software, because we were so close to buying them. But we lost that one. It would have been a different world if we'd been able to pull that caper off.
No Google flights. All right.
Oh, it would have been Google Flights powered by KAYAK.
Hey. So let's flip that question around and say, so what are you most proud of over that time? The thing that you're really glad that you did?
I'm most proud of building a successful company and having a lot of fun along the way and working with talented people. I mean, not everybody gets to experience that success, because it comes down to those four factors: a great idea, a great team, well-financed, and then luck. And the last one is actually the hardest one to secure, because you've got no control over it. And so we've been very fortunate to build a great company and have a lot of fun along the way. And a lot of our employees have gotten wealthy in the process, and that's very fulfilling too.
Right. So last question I had was, so what's next for you and for KAYAK? What are the next 20 years going to bring?
I'm hopeful that they bring as much innovation as the first 20, if not more so. And I hope the company stays curious and dissatisfied and innovative. I hope our team stays small and talented as well. I hope our P&L is great, and then I hope we get lucky. But most importantly, I just want everyone to enjoy the ride, because the first 20 years were just amazing.
Yeah. Well, this is your opportunity to tell us, what you can unveil. You can make the big announcement right here. All these people watching.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to announce anything. I'd rather show them in person on the website or in the app.
Yeah, well, I had to ask. Okay. Well, Steve Hafner, it's been great speaking with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time, docking your boat so that you could come talk to us, and I look forward to hopefully a lot more conversations over the next 20 years. So,
sounds good, Derek. Be well, man. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.